Welcome, dear Aries, both long-time listeners and those just finding their way here to my channel Zodiac Talks Tarot. Today we are diving into an Aries love reading that is far more than fortune-telling. It is a reflection of your soul's evolution. Having spent years immersed in astrology, psychology, and the endless human dramas that repeat across generations, I can say this moment in your journey is both timeless and deeply personal. Aries, you are the first sign of the zodiac, the one who charges forward and declares, "Let there be light." You are the pioneer, the one who never waits for permission to blaze a trail. But even the fiercest flame can dim when it becomes tangled in toxic cycles of attachment and illusion. What you are facing now is the universal tension between freedom and entrapment, between the raw fire of your spirit and the sticky webs of someone else's unfinished karma. Psychology would call it the battle between self-actualization and codependency. Spiritual traditions would call it the struggle to release suffering by letting go of clinging. And Aries, no sign understands liberation quite like you. You may have tried, again and again, to carry someone else's chaos, but at some point even the strongest ram says, "Enough." The humor here is that Aries doesn't just walk away, they sprint, head held high, leaving the rest of us wondering if we just witnessed an Olympic-level exit. But beneath the laughter is wisdom. Surrender is not weakness, it is strength, and your story now is about reclaiming your fire. So sit back, breathe deeply, and know that what unfolds in your love life is not an ending, but the start of your freedom. This is not just a reading, Aries. It is your reminder that the mountain ahead is yours to climb unburdened and brilliantly alive. Aries, let's talk about the art of finally putting down the weight that was never really yours to carry. For years, maybe even lifetimes, you've been lugging around old wounds, chaotic entanglements, and arguments that repeated like a bad song stuck on loop. And if there's one thing Aries cannot stand, it's being trapped. Telling an Aries to sit quietly in a cage while mountains wait to be climbed is like telling fire not to burn, utterly impossible. Here's the truth, walking away doesn't mean defeat, it means victory. In fact, it's one of the rarest kinds of victories, because it requires not muscle but wisdom. Even the Buddha reminded us that clinging is the root of suffering. And Aries, you finally did what few are brave enough to do. You unclenched your fists, set down the baggage, and stepped forward lighter, freer, stronger. That's not weakness, it's enlightenment, wrapped in Aries fire. But let's be honest, Aries never exits quietly. No, you probably slammed the metaphorical door so hard that the neighbor's 3 zodiac signs over are still wondering what just happened. And that, too, is part of your gift, clarity with a thunderclap. Sometimes the universe doesn't whisper, sometimes it clears its throat through you. What others mistake as impulsive is often divine decisiveness. You knew that carrying heartbreak wasn't noble, it was draining. You knew that releasing was the only way to rise. And now, as you stand unburdened, it's worth remembering, surrender is not giving up, it's reclaiming your freedom. You've proven that letting go is not an ending, but the bravest beginning of all. Aries, that door you slammed shut was the sound of your spirit finally walking into its own light. Now let's turn our attention to the ghost still circling your energy, the past lover weighed down by regret. You know the type, they sit in silence replaying every argument, every impulsive choice, every word they wish they could snatch back. In their mind, they're rehearsing the grand return, imagining a confession that will tug at your heart. Maybe they picture themselves showing up with watery eyes and dramatic pauses, hoping you'll crumble. But here's the catch, it's rarely the full truth. What they offer is a half confession, polished just enough to sound sincere, but carefully edited to protect their pride. In psychology, we call this impression management. In spiritual terms, it's avoidance. And in Aries terms, it's a waste of perfectly good Wi-Fi. The danger, of course, is nostalgia. Memory has a sneaky way of turning painful nights into bittersweet stories. That's the energy of the Six of Cups, sometimes a comforting blanket, sometimes a trap that keeps you stuck in yesterday. Your past lover is banking on that nostalgia, hoping that if they knock softly enough on your emotional door, you'll forget why you slammed it shut in the first place. But memory is not reality. And Aries, for all your fiery passion, you know how to separate the two when it matters. You don't need a ghostly rerun of old mistakes dressed up as redemption. What you need and what you're finally choosing is clarity. The truth is, their regret belongs to them, not you. Their half-truths cannot bind you anymore. And as much as they want to script a reunion, the story has already moved on. The only question left is whether you'll watch their performance or keep walking toward your own freedom. Knowing Aries, I think we both know the answer. What makes this chapter extraordinary, Aries, is that the story is no longer about them, it is about you. You are not the same fiery ram who once tolerated storms of chaos and endless cycles of drama. You've stepped into what we in astrology call Empress energy, and it radiates like sunlight after a long winter. The Empress doesn't chase, she doesn't beg, bargain, or plead. She attracts. She creates. She embodies abundance simply by existing. And right now, Aries, that's you. When you walk into a room, people feel it before you even open your mouth. It's the calm confidence that comes from surviving storms and realizing you don't need to prove yourself anymore. Let's add a little humor here because you know your ex is probably stalking your social media, zooming in on your photos like an amateur detective, muttering, "Did I just fumble the bag of the century?" The answer is simple, yes, they did. That stress-free Aries glow is impossible to fake, and it's driving them quietly mad. But the real magic isn't in your skin, your smile, or the way you look in that new outfit. It's in your liberation. Empress energy is not about appearance, it's about alignment. It's fertile soil for new love, fresh opportunities, and the kind of joy that doesn't need validation. Spiritually speaking, you are embodying the essence of the chosen ones, the rare souls who transform heartbreak into wisdom, pain into power, endings into beginnings. The Buddha taught that true freedom comes not from clinging, but from release. And you, Aries, are living proof. This is your rebirth, magnetic, unbothered, and ready for a future that doesn't just come to you, you draw it in, effortlessly. Meanwhile, on their side of the story, the scene is far less glamorous. The tower has come crashing down, and it is not a gentle tumble, it is a full collapse. Lies are spilling into the open, illusions are shattering like glass, and every attempt at control has slipped through their fingers. Add the devil's energy into the mix: obsession, denial, clinging to toxic cycles, and what you get is the spiritual equivalent of a bad cocktail that no one asked for. This is karma in motion, and karma doesn't always knock politely at the door. Sometimes it storms in like a demolition crew and says, "Surprise, your foundation was never real." And while that may sound cruel, it is actually divine justice at work. Aries, the important truth here is that their collapse is not your burden. Spirit is very clear, their tower is theirs to clean up. It is their karmic homework, not yours. You've already passed that exam, graduated, and moved on to more advanced lessons. To get tangled in their rubble now would be like volunteering to retake a class you already aced, pointless and exhausting. Let's inject a little humor here, because honestly, it's hard not to see it this way. If their life were a Netflix series, the current season would be called The Tower, final episode. Explosions, cliffhangers, everything falling apart. And you? You're not on screen anymore. You're the audience now, comfortably on the couch with popcorn in hand, maybe even rolling your eyes at how predictable the plot has become. That's the difference. Their karma is unfolding in chaos, while yours is unfolding in peace. And that's exactly how it should be. Now let's bring this story full circle, Aries. because the real beauty here is not what collapsed behind you but what lies ahead. You are walking in Fool energy, the card of fresh beginnings, unchained from the past, stepping forward with faith rather than fear. People often misjudge the Fool as naive, but that's because they don't understand courage. It takes far more bravery to leap into the unknown than to cling to what's familiar but broken. The Fool is not about recklessness, it's about trust, about listening to that fire in your chest that says, I was born to move forward, not to circle endlessly in the same maze. And then comes the sun, the ultimate confirmation. Where the devil was shadow, the sun is illumination. It is joy, vitality, abundance, and clarity so sharp that it wipes away the fog of confusion. The universe is shining a cosmic spotlight right onto your path, and once you've seen the truth, there's no going back. Liberation doesn't whisper, it beams. It is the exorcism of illusion, the light that reveals not only what was false but also what is possible. This is why I insist, Aries, 2025 is your year of triumph. You've been tested in ways that could have broken you, but instead they carved out your resilience. You are one of the chosen ones, the souls who rise not because life is easy, but because the storm forces them to grow wings. Think of it this way, while others are still sweeping up the rubble of their tower, you're packing for a road trip under the sun. That's the Aries way. Bold, unafraid, and maybe just a little dramatic, but always moving toward life with open arms and a grin that says, watch me. From a psychological lens, what your unhealed partner is going through isn't mystery, it's textbook. Human beings have a strange tendency to confuse what is familiar with what is safe. The brain clings to old patterns, even destructive ones, because at least they are predictable. That's why your past lover stays locked in cycles that drain them. They're not chasing fulfillment, they're chasing familiarity. It's like replaying the same sad movie every night, hoping for a different ending. This is devil energy at its core, trauma on repeat, a loop that never truly closes. But here's where you, Aries, break the pattern. You chose growth over stagnation, clarity over chaos, freedom over familiarity. That's rare, and it's powerful. It's why you feel light while they feel heavy, why your path is opening into triumph while theirs circles back on itself like a scratched record. And now, let's step into the humor and philosophy that only Aries can deliver. You know as well as I do, Aries has two gears in love: full throttle or full stop. There's no middle ground, no polite dimmer switch. And right now, you've slammed it into full stop with the kind of flair only a fire sign could muster. Picture yourself tossing your hair back, muttering thank you, next, and striding off as if the universe itself had already reserved you a better table at the cosmic restaurant. Here's the Buddhist wisdom tucked inside that Aries fire: every heartbreak is a teacher, every tower collapse is a classroom. And you've passed that test. The Buddha would remind us, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. You felt the pain, yes, but you refused to chain yourself to it. You released the suffering. That's the difference between someone stuck in devil energy and someone walking in light. Chosen ones like you don't just endure, you transform. You laugh at your scars. You retell your heartbreak like a mythic adventure, complete with villains, plot twists, and a heroic ending. And the absurdity of what you once tolerated? That's the punchline you carry now, the story you tell with both wisdom and wit. That's your true Aries gift, turning pain into wisdom, and wisdom into freedom. Aries, if there is one truth I hope you carry forward from this reading, it is this: you are not walking away with loss, you are walking away with liberation. The universe has not robbed you, it has cleared space for something far greater, something aligned with who you are becoming. You leave behind not emptiness, but clarity. You leave with strength earned through fire, with wisdom that cannot be unlearned, and with a self that feels renewed. When the message arrives from the past, as it almost certainly will, read it with the vision of who you are now, not who you were then. Half-truths will no longer pass for love in your eyes. Compassion is not the same as reconciliation, and forgiveness does not require reunion. Sometimes the kindest, bravest thing we can do is to let go. That act, Aries, is not abandonment, it is love in its purest form for yourself and for the other. This is your rebirth, your sacred threshold into what I call the Year of Triumph 2025. As one of the chosen ones, you are not simply surviving heartbreak, you are transforming it into fuel. Every scar becomes a torch, lighting the road ahead. And the road, Aries, is dazzling. You are stepping not into shadows, but into sunlight itself. The mountains ahead are calling, and you were never meant to live confined in a cage. You were born to climb, to explore, to live out loud with the kind of fire only Aries carries. So laugh at the absurdity of what you once tolerated. Cry if you must, for tears water the soil of your growth. But keep walking, Aries. The radiance you are stepping into is yours alone. Remember, the stars do not chain you, they guide you. They illuminate the path, but the steps are always yours to take. And as your companion here on Zodiac Talks Tarot, I leave you with this encouragement: embrace life fully, fiercely, joyfully. Share your fire, shine your light, and let your freedom be your legacy. If this message resonates with you, support our journey together, like, share, and subscribe to Zodiac Talks Tarot. The best chapters of your story are just beginning, and I'd be honored to walk alongside you as they unfold.